guys, welcome to another episode of Floating Thoughts. If you are new here, my name is Lally and I am your host. If you are not new here, welcome back. How have you guys been liking the last episodes? I feel like I'm learning a lot from a lot of the guests that I have been having. It has been pretty fun getting to know everybody and also kind of bringing awareness to topics that are often not talked about, or just, learning a little bit more of whether it's self-love or like self-care in different cultures and stuff. So today is a very special episode. I have my very first family member on here, and I'm so excited to have her because we were actually discussing a little bit this before, where I was like, are you my cousin? Am I aunt? Are you my aunt? So I think we mainly have gone by like cousins maybe. So I'm just going to stick to that. Okay. But she is younger than me, but I swear she's probably one of the smartest people I've known my whole entire life. And I think she is doing great things. So I am so happy to have her on here. She literally traveled to be on here. And this is why I'm giving a long introduction, because this is a very special episode for me. But without further ado, I'm going to let her kind of introduce herself and we're going to get this episode rolling. So welcome.
Thank you.
I didn't want to say her name because I want her to say her name, but go ahead and introduce yourself.
Oh, hello, I'm Dalia. I'm 23. I'm from Dallas, but currently living in Austin. And yeah, Lally is my... Wait, I'm your niece? Yes.
We're figuring that out, okay? We need to call my mom back after this episode to figure out, like, why am I around again? Yeah, I'm so excited for you guys to get to kind of know her a little bit more. I just kind of want to start off by first and foremost saying thank you so much for being on here. Can't believe she filled out a form too. Like,
fill out the form.
Yeah, literally, fill out the form. But yeah, like I said, she traveled over here, so I'm so thankful that she took the time to come out here and share a little bit about herself, stories, and overall topics, again, that are often not shared about enough. So tell us a little bit about yourself and like who you are now and then who you were growing up.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, well, yeah, just thank you for having me and like making space and also hosting me. So she's, you've been incredible. And I've been following the fans and like the feed. So just love what you stand for and like your mission. So just honored and privileged to be here.
Thank you. I did not pay her to say that, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's such a great opportunity, so thank you. But who I was in the past, I think I would define myself as a very like shy, introverted person, child. Very quiet, and someone who was just like really nervous around everyone, and like not someone that really had a big voice or would want to take up space in like events or groups or like even in family. Like I always try to like shelter myself, whether that was for protection or for just sanity. But yeah, like as I have continued to go into adulthood and just growing up, it's been I feel like I'm gaining more confidence, more voice, and a stronger backbone on like my belief systems and like reshaping my mind. And just I think I have definitely grown into not someone that I thought I would be, but like I'm not mad at it. I think it's been a long journey to get here, but I'm really happy at this stage of my life.
Where you're at now?
Yes.
Do you think, like, I know you brought up, by the way, like, it's crazy because yes, like, we're family, but it's been a while since we've seen each other. Like, we don't see each other often. And she's not far from me, like, at all. But it's just also growing up, we weren't, like, the closest, I'd say, as, like, just our family dynamics, maybe. I don't know. I really don't know. But it's interesting that you say that because I remember you as a child, you were, like, very, like, you had a lot of personality.
Really?
So I think, like, I, like, knowing you now, I know that you went through probably, like, a lot in your life that, like, I missed or you missed that, like, we didn't see within each other. But I think that, like, when I talk to you now, I still see you, like little you. It's so weird, but I
Yeah.
think like I still see that personality of when you were like little. Like I've never viewed you as shy.
Wow. Wow.
So
That's so
like
interesting.
that's
Yeah.
interesting that you're like, oh, I'm very shy,
Mm-hmm.
because me remembering when you were little kid. Let me no,
Dang,
that was
she's
not cute.
exposing me,
I
y'all.
know. I was like, didn't you put gum in my hair? No, I'm just kidding. But I don't. I remember like, yeah, I don't remember you as like shy. If anything, I think I remember your sister as shy,
Wow.
which is
That
weird,
is-
right?
Yeah, actually, that is so interesting because I always saw her as like a very like extroverted and like more
Really?
outgoing. Yeah, so I think
No.
I don't know.
I think recently like that, whenever you guys came like last time a while back,
Yeah.
that was like whenever I saw her more like open, and I remember I was like, oh, like wow, she changed, like she's more open now. But I always, growing up, I think I always seen her as shy. So
Wow.
interesting take. Do you think
Yeah.
it was like something within like I know you mentioned that whenever you were growing up, you kind of viewed yourself a little more shy, or like you mentioned something particular of like you don't like that you, it was probably like guarding yourself or something. Like is it something in particular that like made you want to do that, like that you were kind of more stand to, or like more to yourself because of something?
Yeah, I think, well, one, I think it's like super interesting that like I don't think I've heard anyone like really, aside from like my immediate family,
Really?
like like share how they perceive me as a child.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's like, I don't know. I guess like we just,
Insert pictures here. And then please insert videos of us running around the house. No,
I don't really remember much of that, like of my childhood in that way. I think I remember the parts where I'm like, oh, I'm alone with my sister and like I'm like drawing, you know. So I think because it was us two for a while, I think like there was I guess we both felt like some solitude within, like our parents were working and it's like just between us.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like, so I think it's really interesting. And I think when I would visit y'all when I was a kid, I can probably just through pictures maybe see how I was a very outgoing child, but I think that changed as soon as like I think maybe like going into elementary, like the idea of like being with other kids and like other like cultures. Like we grew up, I think it was fun because we grew up with very similar like parents with similar ideologies.
Yes.
But yeah, when you go into like primary and like your other kids are like, ooh, ew, why are you speaking Spanish?
Yeah.
It's kind of like so I guess I think there was a shift of like changing into like this, like, I don't want to expose myself anymore. And my sister being like sort of like a bigger person of like, oh, don't mess with my sister, you know? And maybe she tapped into that later.
Yeah, because it kind of had like protection, and then also like, so you were like, oh, I don't need to intervene in certain things.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense. It's so interesting. I always find it interesting how like even as like family, as like we view one another, because I feel like we sometimes have this perception of other people, or like, but then like, for example, as we grew up together, like we would go visit often, so I think like I always remember you like really close to my sister, but like again, like yeah, I don't know, and I always have this one memory of us watching Cat in the Hat.
That was my favorite movie.
Really? Okay, maybe that's why we watched it.
Yeah.
But you know what's so weird? I was thinking about the other day, I was like, should we have been watching that? Because recently when I watched it, I was like, But that's interesting. And I feel like it's kind of hard to, not hard, but like when you start seeing like family members or so grow up, you start seeing them like a little bit different. Like not in a bad way, but like you're like, dang, I remember, like every time I see you, I remember little things of like our childhood. But it's always like a good thing to like remember. I know you mentioned a little bit about like you don't really remember your childhood. Is it because of something specific to you?
I think I actually don't know.
No?
I think, I mean, like, yeah, growing up, like, I think maybe there's a lot of abusive things happening at home where like my mind sort of like shuts it off.
Like kind of like trauma?
Yeah. Like, and I think that there's like, thankfully, I only have like very positive like memories left. So it's like, I do remember some parts, like I think when we were older, like when I was like 7 or 8, and like we would have like we would set up our room to be like like a playground, but it was like it was a fighting ground.
Yes,
actually.
I know, it was like WWE or something. Yeah, okay, yes.
So I remember that very vividly, and I remember visiting. I think visiting your home for the first time, and like that was fun too. So
do you remember us getting microphones and singing?
No.
We had like a whole dance routine. No.
I
need to find those pictures because we're literally like like this, and like we're posing all like freaking rebelde or something. I don't know what we were singing, but like we're literally like this, and you're like in the middle. I don't know. That's why like it's so crazy because I thought you had such a big personality, but like you were literally in the middle, and you're like like so I was like. Okay. So that's how. And then even whenever like, she's still in like Did you mention that you were in school or no?
Yes. Yeah. Well, okay. I don't know.
You're in grad school, right? So she goes to UT.
Yeah.
For grad school. Super smart. And whenever like I kind of found out that you were going to like UT and you were like studying all these things stuff, I was not shocked. But that's what I'm saying. Like. I had always seen, even like she was valedictorian of her class, so things like that I was like not like surprised because I had always seen you like big personality, like if you wanted to go get something you were gonna do it type of thing. So yeah, like that's how I was kind of like, oh yeah, that's her. Like it wasn't like really she went to go do that, you know what I mean? It was like, yeah, I know she would have done it, you know what I mean?
Well, that's very sweet. Like, but I think honestly I think this conversation right now, it's like opening. I just didn't. It's so weird because I really don't. Like I think even my mom or like my dad would say like, oh, you were always a really like shy like child. Like you were always like kept to yourself and like just always very independent. So like maybe like that, like hearing that narrative as I grew up, I kind of like also internalized. So that's just maybe one of the factors, but it's so interesting seeing like your take on like how you perceive me.
Yeah, no, I think we're gonna call Ellie if you're watching this. We're calling you after this because I think I had always seen you like that, but no, I did.
Now you're unlocking some memories.
Core memory. No, what are you? I don't know if you told them what you're studying. Did you tell them what you're studying?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
But I am studying geography, mainly doing like human geography, but with like some features of physical geography. And that sounds, I'm trying to simplify it, but specifically looking at like water issues in Puebla and Mexico, and just how like community like water management functions in rural areas. So.
You know what's so also interesting about like what you're studying? Like you ever see, this is a weird example I'm about to give, but you ever see like those buildings and then you're like, I wonder who works there. And then like you're like, do people even work there? Like, you know, like, I don't know. Like, I think I've always seen geography like that too. Like,
oh, wow.
That, like, I know people work and do things in that side, but I've never really, like, met somebody that is studying and working in that, like, field. How do you like it?
Well, that's a really good point, and I think it's, like, true to, like, the field because I think geography departments in general are pretty small in the U.S., like, it's huge in the UK and, like, other, like, regions in the world. But for us, specifically at UT, it's, like, really small. So I think this year I'm the only... I think I'm the only and the last master's student graduating in the program.
Oh, my gosh.
So it's a class of one. But I'm continuing the doctoral program. So I think now it's, like, they're transitioning to just a doctoral program.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like, I was lucky enough to, like, be within like get my master's, and it also counts towards my doctoral degree, so killing two birds in one stone. Yeah,
that's awesome. You love school, girl. And I love that for you. But I hope that you guys got to know her just a little bit, and got to know a little bit of what she does, and who she is as a person. So like any other episode, we're gonna start off with a little question box. I kind of like to guess before, like, which one they're getting. So I kind of have one in my mind of which one she's going to get. So we're going to see if that's it.
Can you manifest it?
I know. There's one that's handwritten. If you don't understand what it's saying, just hand it over to me because I wrote it.
Okay. Let's see. Did I read it out loud? Okay, great. If you could erase one common misconception about you, what would it be?
I guessed it. I knew that. Okay, good.
She totally didn't put it on.
I know. I didn't put it. No, y'all heard me shake it.
I think,
If you haven't thought about it, you can take your time.
But. Yeah, I'll think about it. I'm trying to think like how, because now people perceive me that way. So. But I'm thinking how people perceive me like today, and I think people like usually try to stand up for me because they see me as very like timid or like kind of more reserved, and like so I think that if I could erase one misconception is like, no, like I can also stand my ground.
Yeah.
I know when and I know how.
Like you choose.
Yes, yeah. I have the autonomy to do it, but some people, and I'm grateful to some people throughout my life who have like intervened and like stood up for me, but also it's like you're in a way like that has taken the power away from me from also giving me the opportunity to confront my own like challenges and like take on my own battles as well. Like I'm not ungrateful. It's just that I think also give the people the space to also act on their own, especially people who might be dealing with like, I don't know, like anxiety or like have other like we're often, I think as women also, we're often seen as like weak.
Yeah.
And like just because you have like the way you show up or the way you look, sometimes it's like, oh, she's not gonna say anything about it. But it's like, no, let me like resolve the way I want to do it. So
yeah. And oh my god, it's so crazy because I feel like I'm gonna be repeating myself in this podcast, but it's so interesting that people like, I think whenever you know somebody and then it's just like you're getting to know somebody or whatever the case may be, it's like different takes that you take. Because I swear you have a fiery personality.
What?
Like, I'm not snappy, don't get me wrong. Like, not somebody's like, hi, and you're like, what? No. It's just like, I feel like you have like, you've always, well, not always, because I know that I missed like a good chunk, I feel like, but like, you've always had like like when I say fiery, I don't mean it in a negative way. I mean it in like a like you always stood your ground. And even like when we do have conversations, like you're very good at like, oh, okay, but no, you know, like stuff like that, where it's like not commonly seen, if that makes sense. Like, you know what I mean?
I think it's because I'm really comfortable around you and like family, that it's like easy for me to like be that way. But I think like when I go out into the real world, it's like I get like, even just like in academia, there's like this persona that you have to have, and like internally I'm just like, I don't know if I can be like, or like pretend the same way that they do, or like keep it together, because I'm very much a person who like, you say something and like I react, I may not say anything, but I'm very like, my reaction's in my face. Gotcha. It's like I can't help it, whether it's like sadness, happiness. It's like very
No, I'm the same way. I know exactly what you mean.
So some people, when they see me reacting like as like hurt, mad, or sad, are like, step away, I got it. And it's like, I totally get it, but it's like, let me process it first, and let me ask you for help. Let me come to you. Yeah. And then I'll ask you like, hey, can you actually help me like talk to this person about that? But oftentimes it's like, just, I think in like when I was in undergrad, it's like men would be like, oh, like did that professor say this and this and that? Like, oh, I can go say something about it. I'm like, appreciate that, but I also don't want like that perception to be like, the way they perceive things may not be the way I want to approach the problem. So I think in the outside world, I think I may be perceived differently.
No, that makes sense. And I think you might be right. Like, you might be right. Like, it's not about you. Like, yeah, you're right. I do think that it's like, some, like, when you do feel maybe comfortable, you feel more at like, well, more comfortable to just be like, no, rather than whenever you're maybe not in a very comfortable setting to like kind of say something about it. Um, do you think that like within like your field and what you do now, and like even getting a going to grad school, like, do you often? Sorry, that sounds like this. Do you often feel like you have to keep up like not a personality, but keep up this like idea of like, or it's like a battle because people view you that way?
I think like my field definitely has like shaped the way I like feel like I need to present myself, mainly because it is a male dominated like field. Like geography, it's like I think its foundation is like very like, I don't know if y'all know, but I don't even want to like get into it, into the history of it, but it's like the field of geography was created by like white male like colonizers, and like that being like the foundation of that, I think has definitely opened the door for just white male like scholars to like, you know, expand it in numerous ways. So like coming in as a Latina woman scholar, it's like I do feel like I'm like, oh, I'm trying to like, you know, it's hard to express emotions in the field. It's just like, oh, she can't really handle this, or like how does a woman navigate such terrains, and like when, you know, like they're not built in that way, that's like in their mentality. It's like, you know, a woman really built for this.
Yeah.
So I think
do you often question like if you're in the right field because of that? Like, have you ever felt like
I almost left academia. So I was this close actually after I told myself like after my master's I'm done. Like I was telling everybody, I told my advisors, I told my friends, I was like, because I, as a form of validation, I'm like, I'm leaving officially. That's a lie.
I'm
Now
still here.
I'm still here. And I think even in your first podcast I commented and I was like, questioning whether or not like I even want to stay or continue PhD. And I think a big reason was because I just didn't know if I could take on the stress and the load of like always feeling like I had to measure up, and like continuing to do that over time and as a career for a lifetime. I was like, I'm starting to really question and like have doubts of whether I really belong here. But thankfully I found like a group of students and professors who are like, who I feel like I'm in their back pocket at all times. So they have been like resources that have introduced me to opportunities and places that I didn't really think I could be. Like another like challenge that I had was like having a like genetic bone disease, like something that I can't help, and it's not something that's very visual. So like having to deal with that internally, and like thinking of like, oh wow, if I'm going to be in geography, it's not the case for everybody, but I was really interested in doing field work, and that looks like very different for a range of students. Like it can range from interviews, but it can also range from like going into the terrain and like actually doing like big hikes that are very like straining to the normal body, or to people that don't have like disabilities, but having my disease like really affects my joints and like my bone deterioration. So it's really hard for me to retain calcium through like regular diet or like vitamins. So I was really scared to like, I'm like, am I going to be able to pull this one off? And also even exposing myself like to my advisor and like having to share that like, by the way, I have this, so that may or may not change the plans that we have going into field work. But he was really comprehensive and just very like, at any point you can tell us, you can just wait wherever we're at. But going for example, like going to Puebla and like going through that hike, I was surprised at how much my body can do. And like also it's very mental. It's like having to connect with my body like at all times, checking in like, okay, just because I can keep going, does that mean like it'll be good for me tomorrow, and like how I will deal with my pain. So just all that to say that it's definitely, I've had my doubts, but I've had a community of people who have also encouraged me and like are like, hey, you know, you're doing good at, you know, this is, you clearly have a passion on knowing people, culture, and place.
Mm-hmm.
So like, how do we keep you here? And
To do.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you, I don't know if you want to
Mm-hmm.
tell them like what your disease is.
Oh yeah.
So, because I know like it's not very common, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would you have?
It's called osteogenesis imperfecta, and it's a genetic disease. So it's like something that's just, I think it's like collagen type 1. It's like a broken strand, like, or it's just a missing strand in DNA where like I just can't process, like from regular diet, I can't retain calcium and, yeah, and, or collagen type 1. It's one of the two, but it's like, but collagen type 1 actually, it's like what reinforces like bone and joint health. You're okay.
I'm sorry, my
It's okay.
eyes like twitching. I'm okay though. I'm not crying. I promise.
It's okay. It's
No, but I think like that is I know I've never really like physically told you, but I think it's crazy that like I don't mean crazy. I told myself I was gonna stop saying crazy. I think that it's very inspiring that you are doing exactly what you want to do. I always talk about like something with passions. Like if it's something like a passion of yours, I know there's certain like maybe obstacles or things that can limit you to doing exactly what you want to do. But I know that following what you want to do in life is not often easy because it's like obviously there's trials and things that are going to get in the way of what you want to accomplish, but I do believe that there's a small percentage of people that are actually doing what they want to do, not because they have to do it. And I think that anybody that's actually doing that, whether they're dealing with also like conflict trials, mental health, and things like that, I think that takes a lot, and that's very inspiring as well because like you're dealing with that, and it could have easily been like you're just like, oh no, like I just need to change my field completely because I can't like, you know, deal with this or whatever. But you have chosen to stay there. So I think that that is like super inspiring, honestly, because like I said, I don't think everybody would be able to do something like that, you know? Within like that same like kind of question, is it like, did it play a role in your mental health? Like with dealing with either whether it was just you finding out that you had that disease or then like kind of finding out that like, dang, I'm really attracted to this field of work and I might not be able to do it.
That's a really great question. Yeah, she's such a good, actually, like, yeah, that's a great question. I think it did. I think like I was diagnosed when I was 9 years old, and even the process before the diagnosis was like super like complicated. And you know, thank God, like my mom was just like such an ally and like such an advocate for like, no, something's wrong with my daughter, and like we're gonna figure it out. And I had a lot of doctors, and they're mainly Latino doctors, and I point this out because like it was so easily excused for me. They were just like, oh no, she's just being like super spoiled and super bratty, like excusing my pain and like just being like, she's faking it, like the way she's limping, that's not real. And like my mom being like, no, like, and like even though she was like being shut down by doctors, like she persisted, and she was like, if you're not gonna like take me serious, I'm gonna go with someone else. Until finally we got a doctor who did like a bone density scan, and I was 9 years old, and like the line that got me, like, it's just like, oh, you have like they were looking at they showed me my like bone density scan, and they were like, okay, look at that. And I was just like, I just see a black like screen,
yeah.
And they were like, yeah, so this is what your bones look like. Usually you should look white. And they were like, you have the bones of a 54-year-old like long life smoker. And yeah, and I was just like hearing that, I was just like, what does that even mean? And like, but understanding that like smoking's bad. So I was just like, I haven't done anything.
Like, I swear I have not smoked. And just drug free.
Yeah. And so like just being 9 and just like taking that news, it's like, okay. I was like, wow, so I'm not crazy. Actually, there was something that was wrong with me this entire time, and it explained, at the same time, it gave me validation, but also it's like, oof, the road ahead is like super challenging as well.
Yeah.
So in that moment, I felt like, wow, like the reason why I can't like fully pick up a gallon of milk without being tired, that's explained, you know?
Yeah.
But I was like, me having like pains when I'm getting up from bed in the morning, explained. Or like why I get like twisted ankles so often, or why I can't, jump in the trampoline and like
Yeah.
without feeling anything or feeling pain. But at the same time, it's like, okay, what does that mean for me in the future? And I would learn that through various like um, injuries. So like with my condition, there's a lot of like injuries that come with it, and I like my mom was also learning about my disease at the same time as I was.
Yeah.
And so it's like as I would get injured, it's like, okay, no more jumping, or okay, no more running, or okay, no more bicycle. And I didn't realize like how fragile like my bones really were until I think I turned 13. I had a pretty like major like injury that at the time I was just like, oh, it's just a fall.
Yeah.
And I remember falling into concrete, putting my like weight in my hand, and like just it feeling warm. So like I was like, I didn't really think nothing about it, kept it pushing. A week passed, and I told my mom, I was like, I was like, something's wrong with my wrist. She was like, oh my God, it's swollen, it's like broken. And I was like, oh, like didn't. So we went to the doctors, and we went through the healing process, but even the healing process was imperfect. So I had to have like go under major surgery, had rod and like screws by the time I was like 16. So, and it was like one of the most painful like injuries where I was just like, oh, just one fall like led to a trajectory of like multiple medical interventions and just recovery.
Yeah.
It was like super long, and that I was like, can I catch a break?
Yeah.
And I was just, yeah, so I think it really played in like self-esteem and like anxiety around other people. Like now I'm just like, oh no, don't get close to me. Or like don't be rowdy around me, and like just being really like cautious of her. Yeah. And like as a kid I was just like, everyone wants to be like push you around. Yeah. And like and it's just like I had to be the little mini adult of like, I'm gonna be serious today because or can't go roller skating because I'm too good for it. But like in my mind I was just like, I just want to be a kid.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Oh my gosh. We're going ice skating after this. No, it's crazy because, disclaimer, first of all, y'all know Luna and Nova are going to do it every single time. So if y'all hear running around and stuff, it's them. But it's crazy because even like the last line, like, I just want to be a kid. Like, even when you grow up, you think about like, oh, I wish I could be a kid. And like, if dealing with all of that as a kid, like, I think it could make you question like, well, do I want to go back to like dealing with all those things again, and like the idea of like trying to play tricks with your mind because you're kind of like, oh, I have to kind of lie to myself that I don't want to do something, but really it's just for my better, like the better good of like my health, like it's challenging. And like I think we don't hear about that enough, like even like as when it's taught to us. I feel like with the whole like health thing, like you often just hear it more with like when you get older, like this is what you're gonna deal with. And I think that's why like a lot of people come in shock when their kids, like they might have like cancer or like things like that, because you don't expect it when it comes from a kid, because you're supposed to be healthy. Like you're supposed to like, you're not supposed to be injured, or you're not supposed to be hurt, and
resilient.
Yeah.
Like, you can recover. You'll be fine next week.
You're gonna live a long life. And I think like you think about that a lot, that it's like what a privilege it is that sometimes you don't deal with that as a kid, and you don't realize that there's other people that don't have that same privilege as you. Yeah. And this is just also like like if you're watching, I think this is also just like a realization, like, one, don't let things like stop you from doing what you want to do, because there's always like a way. But also like just hearing your story is also very, like I said, like very inspiring to know that like you could have easily fell into like a deep depression or like shut down your dreams or whatever the case may be, because you thought like, oh, like what's the point? And to hear that like, yeah, you developed like you know, you had like anxiety and stuff like that, that could be like traumatizing, of course, you're still doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's definitely, like you said, it's definitely a privilege to, like, be in a space that, like, allows me to, that doesn't require, like, a big physical, like, need for me. But I would say, like, I think as a person with a disability, it's like, it's definitely, as a child, like, knowing so early on, definitely changed the narrative I had in my head of, like, what are the possibilities. So, like, for example, at some point I was like, oh, I want to be a doctor, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, but then, like, the next immediate question was like, but can I lift a patient? You know? And it's like, and not that that's a constraint, like, there's definitely doctors who, like, there's workarounds, but for me, it was just like, is that something I want to, like,
be able
to ask, or, like, or that was just not a comfort level that I had. But I mean, the sky's the limit. But I think, like, it, as someone who lives day to day with it, like, it definitely shaped me. And it's just like, okay, at the core of me, what do I actually like? And it's like, one of the things that I found, like, just a lot of enjoyment in is, like, people's stories. Like, I really respect, like, your work, because I'm just like, you're capturing narratives, and, like, to me, it's like there's an art to storytelling that I'm also developing through my work. And so I just have a lot of respect for the arts. And it's definitely been, like, a space for me where I was like, wow, I like the idea of, like, tapping into other people.
Do you view like, did you grow a resentment towards, like, the health, like, side of things? Like,
that's a great topic to talk about today.
Let's get into it, because I feel like it, like, you know, it happens often where, like, you know, you were like, oh, maybe if they would have, like, you know, you're gonna come up with those questions of, like, if they would have just paid attention the first time, like, would this have changed, or if maybe they had more, whatever it is, like.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of injustices, like, in the healthcare system. One, from, like, even accessing healthcare, like, that's already, like, so many different injustices in that standpoint, from, like, financial, or, like, through, like, employer, like, that's, like, a whole, like, world in itself. But then also, like, with the doctors, and, like, doctors' biases and stuff, like, that's real too. Like, so I think that those two things, like, really shape, like, my my thoughts about healthcare. One, because, like, I grew up in a low income family, so it's like, sometimes we had Medicaid, sometimes we had CHIP, sometimes we didn't have either. So and that was always, like, a difficult process to apply to, or for my mom to apply for. So yeah, there was times where, like, we didn't know like, how to, like, what doctor to go to, right? Like, what specialist, if we can't afford it, to even get, like, a primary care, like, checkup. Two, I think there's also the biases, like, that I was talking about with the doctors, like, oh, your daughter's faking it, she'll be fine, like, and it's like, oh, this idea that, like, ethnic minorities are, like, more resilient to, like, injuries, or, like, health cares, and, like, that's something that's, like, been studied and, like, experienced a lot by like, Black people who are also, like, seeking healthcare. And, like, it's something that's very, like, real, and it's still happening, and has to do a lot with, like, education, like, retraining the current, like, field of doctors. But, you know, also respect to, like, the doctors who are you know, coming from, like, marginalized backgrounds, who are also entering that field, and it's really hard to, like, make, you know, space for that. So, but shout out to them. Another thing that I feel like that had to be overcome, it's like even though my mom was a big advocate, and she knew something was, like, off with my kid, my dad was also, like, super opposed to it. He was just like, nothing's wrong with my daughter. Nothing can ever be, like, you're saying my blood is like what caused this. And it's just, like, you know, it gets, like, really, like,
he's, like, in denial.
And even now, when I bring it up as an adult, and I'm like, oh, like, yeah, I had to go to the orthopedic doctor to, like, go, like, check up on my joints, because I was, like, feeling pain. And he's just like, you know, I have a tea that's good for you. He's just like, ginger and, like, onion and, like, and I'm just like, also just still in denial
Yeah.
that like it's a real, like I'm dealing with chronic pain, and like that. I remember when I first brought it up, and I was just like, oh yeah, they said like I have something in my bones, and I'm gonna need like, like X surgery. He was just like, you don't need it. He's like, your arm looks fine,
Mm.
but it's like,
You're
also
like,
you're
yeah,
not in
you're
my
not you're
body.
not
Yeah.
feeling what I feel,
Yeah.
sir. Yeah.
So.
That's crazy, and I do think one again, like from Hispanic parents, I know I've said it, and like, well, we're both come from Hispanic backgrounds, but it's sad because I feel like, yeah, maybe it wasn't like, you can't fault them because it wasn't like common in their times and like how their upbringings, but it's also sad because you kind of feel like it's like, I'm still your child and like it's happening to me, so it's like, why would I fake something like that I don't want to deal with,
Yeah.
But it's like kind of battling those two things versus like trying to explain it to them like, no, it's very much real, like they found them, and also trying to like, not understand that they don't come from that type of like background, but yeah, the healthcare system, I do think that it's very, it's like a hot topic, and not in a good way. I feel like it's very neglected, and there's so much money that I feel like goes into it that it really raises the question whether like, where's that money going to, if like like, who are we hiring? First and foremost, but who are we hiring? I need to meet with them. But like, it's just, I do think that's such a scary field too, because you really do have to have the right people, because it's like, that's why a lot of people are often scared to go to hospitals, or often scared to just getting like, the idea is really for you to get your yearly checkup, but there's so many people that I've also met that are like so opposed to that, because it's like, no, I'm only gonna go when something hurts because I've been mistreated multiple times, or whatever the case may be. And I feel like if that's the case, then we need to do some investigation, because I do think I hear that more than, oh, I had a great visit, like everything's good, um
And I think it definitely like starts like even early on. Like I think my mom, she shared a story with me which I think like it was pretty impactful. Oh, I'm so sorry. Right. Oh, this way. It's already pretty tight.
You just leave it.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. Yeah, but my mom shared a story that a childbirth, when she gave birth to me, she said that there was a doctor. She said that even in a sonograph, like in sonograph images, like they could tell something was like wrong with me, like just the structure. But then she said that when they like delivered me, that like the way that doctors were like really aggressive and like had to like clamp me out, they weren't like very gentle, and like I think I had like a broken like is it clavicle. Yeah, like even early on, so it's like I don't know, there's a lot of
yeah,
like,
it could raise questions of
harms,
like, is that why I'm also dealing with, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean even early on, but yeah, like with the idea of like healthcare, like and the structure of how it's built, I'm here for healthcare for all, like truly.
yeah,
But yeah, like where is that money going, like how it's being used, and like again, like the healthcare system has profited off of like keeping people medicated. And I'm like, I know there's medications that are like dire need, but also there's also like just doctors going like, oh, not taking the preventative measures to really see the root cause of things, and just being like, oh, treat the symptom. But in reality, you still have the one symptom leads to like it's a actual bigger disease, or a bigger like healthcare, like issue that you really have. Could be cancer, could be something else, instead of just like throwing away, putting you aside, like, oh, you just have headaches. And like
I do think, and also like, just to kind of touch on it as well, I feel like sometimes when we talk about like issues like that, I know that there's certain people like that just roll their eyes and they're like, oh, here comes like, conspiracy theories or whatever the case may be. But I also feel like if you feel that way, then like also prove me wrong. Like, not prove me wrong. Well, yeah, prove me wrong. But also like kind of like where, like, answer the questions that like people are having. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like sometimes if there people are having these concerns and at that is a number amount of people, then one, there, yeah, you have to, let's question it. And I think we have every right to question it. And I feel like lately 2 + 2 is not equaling 4. I don't know. Like, it's just a lot of questions and like little answers. So it's like, how can you not come up with like, and even then, like, some things are not conspiracy theories. Some things are really truly research, and it's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a tough topic, really, to talk about, because I think it's different like takes on it. You know what I mean? But it's definitely something that needs to be talked about. I do agree on that. I do think that like some people we're not educated enough, but then also it's like something that we should be.
Yeah. I think like just like from my field, like the way I look at it, it's like the I work with the topic of environmental justice a lot.
Yeah.
And I discuss it a lot, but I mean, there's like also like, I want to give credit to like the actual movements that are happening. But for example, like here in Houston, I think a lot about like, there's a lot of like oil, like the oil industry here is like huge,
Yeah.
I'm thinking of like how many people are affected unintentionally, like not unintentionally, but like people are affected, not really, like when they moved here, before like oil companies, or even if they are moving here not currently now, they're not actively thinking like, oh, I'm gonna be harmed by like chemicals in the air. So it's like a very like hidden like effect of like the environmental implications of like bigger companies.
Yeah.
And it's like, how are you compensating those people, for damaging their health and like in certain ways, like higher rates of cancer, higher rates of like birth defects and like things like that. And some people don't make that connection, and they're just like, oh, it's just like, it's me. Yeah. And like now the individual is left to fend for themselves, and these companies continue to make more money, continue to profit. And it's like, oh wow, and now we have the issue of like, we don't even have universal health care to like help these people like navigate these very direct linked like environmental issues that are happening. So I don't know, I think like if I am just like always actively thinking of like the bigger structures that are impacting the individual and how that trickles down, and who should we hold accountable. And I think like Houston's like a very good example for that.
Of that,
so
yeah. Not you saying that, me living in Houston.
It's okay.
No, that's a good take. I think that's something I do have to think about, because I don't think I've like, you broke it down perfectly though. I do think that I don't want to speak on something I'm not really too knowledgeable on that yet, but I do think that you broke it down perfectly to where like, we'll definitely be talking about this after the podcast, because I kind of like, it's a very interesting point that you made. And then especially because you've like really done the research behind it, it's kind of like, I can't question that,
No, please question it. Actually,
no, actually I can't, because I don't know anything yet.
That's research, though. Yeah. Like it's.
But it's like questioning. It's a very like, no, that's super interesting. If you have like, like even if you guys, when you guys watch these episodes, like when there's certain things like that, I would love to hear you guys' like response to that, because like, again, like there's certain things that we might not be knowledgeable on, but it's also something that I think we can like learn to be knowledgeable on. And especially if you know things about it, I'd love to know your response, because yeah, you really have me thinking.
No, I mean, I think one thing like homework for everybody would be like, just look at what's around you. Like most of the times, you just go from work to like home and like and back and forth, but it's like even on the way on the trip here, I was like, wow, look at that chemical plant or like, you know, and I think that geography has really like changed my perspectives and like what I'm looking at, being intentional at like looking at things like that's just not a chemical plant. Where's the house? And like making that connection of like, oh wow, like well, how is this family coping? And like I wonder what illnesses they may or may not have. I wonder if they were compensated for like creating that like, you know, power plant. So I'm always just thinking. I mean like so I'm always tired too, but like I think just look at your surroundings, see what's out there, and
like be more alert,
start questioning. So it's a please question, research, please, like that's I think a very critical point that everyone should be doing. It's like don't stay silent. Definitely question where it's coming from, what you're around, and like where things are happening.
Yeah. That's if you take anything from this podcast is question and be alert and pay attention to like you know topics and like but also like what's within those topics like your like how you said like your surroundings. I'm gonna make a little change on this episode. Nothing too crazy. Still gonna have the same questions, I promise. But I'm gonna go ahead and do the question box. So we're gonna pick. I think I have really good questions this time, so I'm actually very excited about this. But I have 2 questions here, 2 numbers, and I think what I want to do for this episode because I do want you to answer both, but we're gonna answer one right now, touch down on it, and then one of them I believe is gonna be your closing out question. So.
Okay, cool.
The numbers are 41 and 98.
Okay. I like 41.
You like 41? Okay.
Yeah.
41 says now we're gonna do that. No, just kidding. 41 says what's this? Okay. You're an author.
Okay. Ooh, okay.
You're writing your life story. How does your book end? And why?
This would have been good.
Let's get
How does
it.
my book end?
And why?
That's a great question. I hope my book ends with like a story on a community that I've either helped or helped develop with whether that's like within my own circle or like a community of people that I'm leaving behind that like just through like connections I was able to make to support themselves to continue like whatever legacy or whatever like foundation that was started on. And I think it can be both personal or like academic because those are just like my 2 main worlds, but I really hope I leave a strong community for the next generation, because I think that oftentimes we navigate our life, or we think we're navigating our life journey alone, but in reality there's always a community behind you whether you see it or not. Like so I want to be intentional about who I leave behind and where I'm leaving them behind. So whether that's my siblings or or people I end up mentoring throughout my career, I want them to be connected to each other. And I don't want to be the center of it, but I definitely want to be like, oh, I was the glue that like helped you, like helped weave the blanket, you know, and like leave a bigger like plate for everyone to come in and dig in and continue to pass that on. So I think I would like it to end that way.
That's a great answer. That's a great answer. Do you like in a way feel like based on your response, you would like if you were the ending in someone else's book, like would you want it to have been like you're like hey you said one question.
You're getting close.
Yeah, all right, let's cut it. Let's cut this short. Would you like want to be like have not a similar ending, but in the sense of like, would you have ever wanted like life perspective, maybe to be a part of a community like that? Like the community that you want
that someone else.
Yeah, like have you ever wished like based on your response, is it coming from like, dang, because in somebody else's book that ending would have been the same, but like I would want them to have built something like that that I am now a part of now, like of my day life.
I think there's small clusters of communities that I have been part of now, like in school, but I think not as the way I'm like envisioning that.
Yeah.
I think like they're temporary, right? And I would like a long-term one that's just like, I don't, I'm not really sure how to execute it at the moment, but just like I would like them to engage in a way that's like uplifting each other.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure what that collector, what that like group would look like, but I think part of the reason why I would like mines to end that way is because I am also trying to figure out how to be in one and also create one, because I don't think I've ever really felt like I've been in a place where someone else was leaving it behind. I feel like every single time I'm in someone else's community, it's being created because there is not a place for us to be in.
Before.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And that makes a lot of sense to your response as well. So that is a great response.
Thank you.
I truly hope that you guys are enjoying this episode. I think it is a different type of episode because I know that we're touching down on a lot of different like topics within like one thing, and then like we have an audience of ourselves, Luna and Nova in the back. But we are going to move on to the second question. Dun 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 dun. Wait. Oh yeah, you said 41 at first. Okay. What is something you've had to continuously tell yourself that actually took a while for you to believe?
I think that's a good question. All these questions have been great. Lally's such a great host. I think like I feel like I'm more familiar with the phrase in Spanish because it's like créetela. Like I feel like it's a phrase that my mom, my dad, and like they and like my family members continue to tell me like believe that you're actually here. Like to me, the idea of like being in grad school, being to me like the first person in my immediate family like getting a college degree and like choosing to continue that, like to me is like I still can't believe it. Also, I know it's a big thing, but like one of the reasons why I have been able to get there is just because I've been debt free, and like that's through scholarships and like also financial aid and like other fellowships that have like helped me like made the way for me in that space. But like every time I am alone, like sounds like so cliche and like very like super, like to say it, but it's just like I'll sit alone in my apartment and I'm just like taking in, like having a slow morning and thinking like, oh wow, like what do I have to do today? Oh, I just have to like read and like write and like prepare for my class. Like seems like such a privilege when like I've grown up seeing my dad work in the field, like he's a land surveyor, so he like does a lot of like field work, and also my mom like just like caretaking for my siblings, and like that being the majority of her life, and like not pursuing other things. And not that it's a bad thing, she definitely takes a lot of pride in it, and so does my dad. Like this is their identity.
Yeah.
But for me it's like, wow, like what a privilege and what a stage in my life to be in, to be 23, to be here, and to like sometimes I have to like really soak it in, and like also believing the fact that I earned it, like sometimes we were talking about it earlier of just like, oh, sometimes being like an ethnic minority or being part of a group of like of Latina, like I'm always just struggling with the identity of like how many of these opportunities am I receiving because of my identity, because of like my, you know, my story,
Yeah.
and how much is it? It's just like, you know, brain power, right?
Yeah.
And like, what's the balance between that? And like, so believing that I've earned my way through like through work and like through actual just like knowledge that I've been accumulating through my background and through my education as I've gone through it. So yeah, I think every now and then my mom would be like, "Es que tú no te la crees," like you don't believe it. And I'm just like, she's like, you're there, and you have a deserving spot to be there.
Yeah.
So I think like, yeah, just dealing with imposter syndrome and like, I'm just like sitting in the same classrooms, and I'm like, oh, being one of the only Latina students in some of my classes or in some of my internships, some of my jobs, like, it's always just like, it's very, to me, it's like, oh wow, what a privilege, but also so many challenges that come with it.
Yeah.
But again, just like believe that you earn your way there.
Yeah.
And that's just been, yeah.
Talk.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to tell you that you definitely earned your way there. You worked so hard, and you equally deserve it as much as, you know, the next person and the person that has a seat next to you. So don't ever, I know I can't tell you don't ever feel that way, because you can feel however you want to feel, but I do want to say that you don't, like, even if I don't talk to you on a daily, or like I don't see every single accomplishment, like you are doing it, and you are very deserving of everything that you've accomplished, because it takes a lot of work, and that is literally all you, like, you put all that work, and it's a big deal to say that, like, you know, you're doing all of that debt free. But also I think is because also you are a very humble person, where you are coming from a place where you're like you realize that you are, you know, you worked hard for it, but then like you also kind of ground yourself, and you're like, oh, I'm doing it because of like my scholar, like I'm able to do it, like you remind yourself why, like you don't forget kind of like where it stemmed from. And I think that not everybody can do that. So I think that, no, you deserve it.
Thank you.
You deserve it.
Yeah. I do want to add one last thing, because I'm like, I think that like that part of just like not forgetting is like something everyone has to hone in to, especially like as we're moving into spaces where we're not highly represented. Like, it's just, I'm like, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, it's feasible for everybody to do it. Like, I definitely feel like I'm one of the one-off cases, because so many people here that are like, who have big student loans and like are doing just as much of even greater work. But yeah, these are like, again, like just systematic things that like that affect people, and I'm just one that like, it's not an easy path to navigate, or to like that's feasible for everybody. So
no, and yeah, you're right. And the fact that like you recognize it, but also you're doing it, and I am very, very proud of you for that. I am very, very proud. Also, I lied. That is not the last question, because you guys know what the last question is. Before I close out this episode, which has been great, and it's been one of my favorite episodes, believe it or not, I do want to ask, so I'm going to touch down on a little, it's not a long story, but whenever Dalia was little, we used to call her Chiquis.
yes.
Okay. I don't know where they came from. I really, to this day, I don't know. That's why I kind of didn't want to introduce her, because I didn't want to like mistakenly say it. But I think that's just been her like nickname for us when we were little. And again, like we kind of didn't see each other for a good amount of time. So I didn't know that the next time that I was going to see her, she was no longer going to be Chiqui, but she's going to be Dalia, which, you know, funny story. That's been her name, like, hello. But I do want to mention that, because the question is, like, given you grew up with that nickname, right? Wait, did everybody call you that, or was it just us?
I know it was everybody.
Okay.
Like, I think, like, my dad's side of the family would say Chiquis, and then, like, my mom's side of the family would say Yaya, which is like,
yes.
So it's
which that one made more sense. I don't know where we got Chiquis from, but
I'll share why. But
yeah,
there's a story.
There's a story behind it. But I do want to say, I want to use that because again, you guys know the last question, so I'm just gonna ask it. But what would Dalia tell 9-year-old
That's
Cheekies
such
today?
a good question. Oh man, I almost got like a lot of feelings coming there, but
Yeah.
it's a beautiful question. I think like just keep speaking, like keep being loud. So,
No, you're fine.
oh, yeah.
Take your time. You're
Thank
fine.
you. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know. Yeah, that was a really
No,
it's a really
you're fine.
great question. But yeah, like I said, like I think maybe as a child I was a little bit more thanks. I was a little bit more outspoken. So but I think through like after, you know, the first childhood phase, I think like there is a like a loss of like voice or feeling empowered in my voice. So like I feel like now I'm like getting back to it or feeling a lot more confident. But I would just don't like don't stop yourself from like speaking and
Yeah.
being loud. Yeah, cuz I think a lot of during high school, I just remember being so like super quiet and like missing out on events or like just opportunities like to be fun and like speak up or enjoyment. So now I'm just like, oh wow, like it's not a big deal as much as an adult, but like during that time I'm just like, wow, these were critical like
Yeah.
moments and like experiences where I'm like that like Cheeky's voice
Yeah.
needed to be heard.
Yeah.
And just thinking of how much more I would have enjoyed those years
Yeah.
if someone was like, it's okay, like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aw.
Okay,
Well,
I was like, I told
I-
myself I was not gonna cry, and then like,
No,
so,
well,
yeah.
if it makes you feel better, I would tell her that she is doing a great job, and what seemed impossible now is very much possible, and I'm very proud of you.
Thank
And
you.
you know I don't hug people, but I love you.
Thanks.
It was not my intention to make her cry, by
No.
the way, but
Am I the first person?
no, you're not. You're not. But I am very proud of you, and I do feel like you're even though you feel that way, I do think that I hope that you are very proud of yourself too, because you've
you.
gotten so far, and I know Chiquis is proud of you.
Thank
Okay?
you.
But thank you so much for being a part of this season and this episode. It truly means a lot to me, especially because you're my family, and it's just I'm telling you guys, this is literally my favorite episode. But yes, thank you so much for being a part of this episode and speaking your side of the story, and also bringing out conversations that we don't often talk about. I hope that you guys enjoy the episode, and if you like I always say, like if you need somebody to talk to, I'm always here. I'm gonna link her social media as well. If you guys have any questions in reference to like what we spoke about as well, make sure you reach out to either one of us. I don't know a lot about like what she kind of brought up to the table, but I am always open ears to, you know, have different conversations, different topics. Leave comments below. Either me or her would answer them. But once again, if you are ever feeling alone, feeling like you're struggling through something, please know that you are not alone. Someone's always willing to listen to you. And if you get anything from this episode, is that don't be quiet and use your voice, because older you will thank you very much. And if there's something that you're struggling with, please know that you're not the only person that can struggle with that, but know that your voice is very valuable, and no matter how soft it is, you just opening it up can be very, very loud. Okay. So thank you for watching. And with that being said, I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.